and Ms. Tatiana. Well, thank you very much, every one of you. It is honor to be part of the topic which is very close to me, which is fintech revolution in Saudi Arabia. If we understand, $51.8 billion just spent in first half of 2024 globally only on fintech. So that's the kind of massive involvement we are talking about. So as we know, Vision 2030, we have a 525 fintechs. This is our one of the goal in the Saudi market, where 216 fintech as per last report by summer 2023 has been started and licensed. Before going to the further details, I would like to start with Iman because I think we are short of time. I'm not going to take much of your time, Iman, because we are a little bit late. So in this discussion, we are going to talk about the Saudi Arabia fintech ecosystem, and Iman as a pioneer in empowering startups. What are the key enablers driving fintech growth in Saudi Arabia? What challenges do startups face in terms of scaling up?
First and foremost, Faisal, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Thank you to JobStack for having us all today. It's such a distinguished honor to be here. Just very quickly, a little bit more about myself. My name is Iman Abdushakur. I also go by Iman Shakur. I'm the founder and CEO of Blossom Accelerator, as well as a venture partner in Oryx Fund. And at Oryx, we invest heavily also in fintech. And I think I can answer this question from multiple perspectives. Fintech is one of the hottest sectors, if not arguably the logistics and fintech, maybe I would rank second. Fintech sometimes harder to break through because of some of the regulations. But I will say, last year, Saudi Arabia had the highest amount of deployed capital in terms of venture capital deployed across any other country in the MENA region. And in terms of activity, there's been some downfalls in other parts of the world. Saudi is actually on the up and up. And the vast majority of that allocated capital from VCs were specifically in fintech. We saw, 2 unicorns last year with Tabi and Tanada, and we're seeing a lot more. We saw, a dedicated conference this year called 24 Fintech to all things fintech, just because there is so much untapped potential. In terms of, I'll talk about opportunities, I'll talk about challenges. In our line of work, we don't only find fintech startups and then potentially invest in them and then actually invest in them. A great example of a fintech for us is Ijari. We led their round in their pre-seed, and in their seed, they literally raised 55 million riyals just recently. But not only do we fund fintechs, and that's a huge opportunity for us, we see fintechs as a huge proponent for economic really success in the kingdom and beyond. But I think a really unique opportunity that we also unlock and just announced yesterday, we signed a massive partnership with Banca Jazeera. And really it's to further enable the fintech ecosystem. So today when I think of opportunities that exist, I think there's so much potential and it's happening now. And we work a lot with 1957, Riyadh Bank, with SMB. We've done a lot of work with Bank al-Rajhi. And what I see is corporate really wanting to work with fintechs, whether that be early stage, literally all the way from ideation. A lot of banks have these venture builders now where if you're a person with an idea, like they don't even want to have co-founders, no revenue, an idea, no products. Come, we help you build the product. It's a huge opportunity, actually. Challenges, I think my good friend Nazar Haider from Fintech Saudi and his team are doing a distinguished amount of work to really help overcome any regulatory barriers. But I really see it as an age of the utmost opportunity for fintechs today. And really the reason why I mentioned banks and why I'll mention corporates more largely is because never before did we see an age where corporates and these big banks that are traditionally more slow and bureaucratic and have to follow a specific line of processes, now have this willingness to innovate and be agile and work with startups. And we are seeing this because at Blossom, we operate a lot of these innovation programs. So we see it as banks wanting to, again, work with founders from the early stage. You can literally be a talented person with just an idea, but then working with that startup as a vendor, working with that startup as a partner, piloting their MVP within the bank, right? And then we're also seeing a lot of instances of investment. And most recently in September, one of our portfolio companies that we accelerated in 2020 through NCIT's accelerator, Tech Champions, was Darahim. And I think famously for a lot of people, Darahim was a huge success because it was just acquired in September by Bank Rajhi, which is also a client of ours. So I think this is really the age of opportunity for fintechs. I think before fintech, it was logistics. You know, if you look at Kareem, if you look at Jazz, if you look at Conversation, if you look at Flower, it's really the core of it is delivery, it's logistics kind of business. But I think now we're entering the age of fintech. It's very exciting, and I think there's a lot of untapped opportunity and just massive amounts of potential for people who are looking to innovate today.
First of all, congrats when you sign up with Bank Al Jazeera, as you mentioned. Tatiana, going towards you, since you are bringing your ideas to bring more and more entrepreneurs into Saudi market. So as a Forbes recognized investor, what makes Saudi Arabia an attractive destination for fintech investment from your perspective?
So there are several points why we want to help our companies to expand to Saudi Arabia market. We start obviously with very clear government vision and government support. It's very easy to understand where the country is heading, what are the next milestones that need to be covered, and what type of support you can get. And that support actually happens. It's not just on the papers, but it's applied in real life. Secondly, the market is growing and the market is untapped. There's a lot of opportunities that no one is providing specific services currently at the market. And it's very good for companies' growth and to start even here, not start somewhere else, but start right away in Saudi market and then expand to other markets. And there we go to the fact that it's not only a big market internally, it's also a good opportunity to expand to the rest of Middle East and to expand to Africa region, which is also an untapped market where we're talking about tens and hundreds of billions, not even millions. Also, locally, when we were doing our diligence of the region, most of population have very good coverage with like phone and 5G, 4G. Everyone is using digital services, so you don't need to explain to people how to use certain things because they're already using it, which makes it very easy to integrate certain apps, services, software developments. And that's if we're talking about B2C. With B2B, there are a lot of corporates, local and corporates, who are relocating to the region, who want to use, again, AI tools, fintech tools, something that would make their processes faster and thus save money or make them help them make more capital locally. So there are really a lot of opportunities, a lot of market developments happening. So we believe that this is the place to be right now. And I'm spending a lot of time in the region and specifically in Saudi, not in any other country in the Middle East, because I can see that in here, I can make things happen. And it fully depends on the company. If company has the will, if they're hardworking, they can make it happen. Of course, it's not going to be easy, but it's nowhere easy. So it's, you know, sometimes if I talk with funds from US or funds from Europe, they say that, oh, you know, it takes a very long time. It takes a very long time in any European country if you're not local. You go to France, it will take a year. You go to Germany, it will take a year for company registration. So it's not different. You do need to put some effort. There is no magic that will happen automatically, obviously. But if you do it, you definitely have very high gains at the end. And obviously, you do need to provide value. You cannot just sell a dream. You need to provide a product that works and that is needed on the market. But then it's already up to us, to investors, to do a good diligence process on those companies and to see if they actually do have what they claim to have.
Right. You touched very interesting point about the Saudi marketing infrastructure is there, 5G is there, digital usage is there, so it's very easy for the market to penetrate with any new solution. So, Dr. Ahmed, since you are working with open financing since long, and this is one of your passion, so let's move to success story and lesson learned perspective. What notable success story or lesson learned from the Saudi market in the fintech industry you think you can share?
طيب طبعا good evening and السلام عليكم. Nice having me here today. Thank you so much. I have worked on several startups and fintechs, and especially some of them are directly working with us. We are very supporting fintechs when it comes to the competition that some other banks might be taking into consideration. We are considering fintechs and TPPs are partners, try to promote their solutions and business, give them solutions for their targets and objectives. However, I have seen some of them are coming to us without even a business model. And this is one of the main shortfalls that I've seen. A CIO maybe coming with a technical person thinking that they are building a fintech company, and they don't know anything about the banking industry. They don't know about regulations. They don't know how to move forward, what is the market appetite, how to target customers, how to sustain the business. So operating model even is not clear. And sometimes they are just asking us to give them the business model that they should work with. So one of the key shortfalls that I've seen is there is no clear vision, business model, operating model to start up as a fintech first of all. And this is a showstopper, and they will spend, and normally the fintechs don't have much budget or venture capital, so they normally start to try to build their solution, go to SAMA for, let's say, license and approval, which might take 1 or 2 years. They don't know what should be done and what SAMA will ask them to do. So they get surprised from time to time about some extra requirements that they have never planned for. And some of them are even not expecting to have such positions like a chief risk officer if they are working, for example, in financing industry or profession. So it's all about the readiness and expectation, vision, strategy, real understanding of the banking industry, and especially in Saudi Arabia, we have very special industry with some very, as you say, mature infrastructure and services that you cannot start without. So if someone coming today to the industry without thinking that they will provide these minimum services, which we say that it's a baseline now, so it's becoming a norm from any fintech company, they will definitely fail. About the resources, again, some of them came without building enough resources to start with. And they start doing and building the requirements with us and designing even the solution to bring to the market. So by time they start hiring, and then new joiners come to screw up what was designed. And this has impacted us negatively and sometimes with operation losses due to immaturity of the requirements and the design that we have done during the early stage of the engagement. So a lot of unexpected risks and foreseen risks came by time, especially for those, as I mentioned, that are not yet mature, they don't know the market and the banking industry very well. After running BAM and with the operation, you get different levels of surprises and risks, which also they haven't planned for. And as I mentioned again, their budget normally is limited, and the revenue at the beginning is not that much high because of the low number of customer base and transactions. So they start, getting some extra losses because of the immature operation readiness. So by time, either I believe that some of them might not continue because of this these kind of risks, and who will sustain and maintain the operation, will be very few who has, as mentioned by the previous panel, who has really a differentiator to continue in the market.
Thank you. Dr. Genia, as a global investor, you have some multiple markets, and we know we have example of US and Singapore as a mature fintech market. So what opportunities or gaps you look into the Saudi fintechs to achieve global recognition or attract more international investors like PayPal Ventures?
I wouldn't say that Singapore is a very mature ecosystem, but I will give you some numbers. Let's say in 2018, the amount of investments that was in fintech in Singapore was around $500 million. In 2022, it was about $10 billion. And by the opinion of HSBC, it will double the size by the end of this year. Also, Q1 2024 and Q2, altogether, the amount of raised capital for fintechs was 500 million in Singapore and only 700 in the United States. And the United States is the biggest market, right? So Singapore is definitely the biggest challenger right now for the United States and for Great Britain that are the most mature markets. But let's make a step back and talk about trends in fintech in general. And I would say that there are 5: digital payment, digital investment, digital assets, digital fundraising instruments, and definitely neobanks. And my question to the audience, what do you think is the most common or the most popular trend right now out of these 5? Digital payment, digital investment, digital assets, digital fundraising instruments, or neobanks. Do you have any ideas?
Is it investment?
Digital payments, obviously. And be it in Singapore or in Saudi Arabia or in the United States, this is trend number 1. And trend number 2 is definitely digital investments, because more and more wealthy people really want to manage their assets online. And specifically for Saudi market, there are 2 other trends that are P2P lending and insurance. And this is interesting. Also, we can talk about why this is happening, right? And Tatiana also said that the penetration of, say, smartphones and internet is very big here. But obviously, COVID helped us a lot in developing a lot of wireless instruments, wireless payment instruments. And the third that is also very important for this specific market is regulatory changes in different markets. And probably the fourth is definitely AI and blockchain that are also helping that to happen. Now, let's talk about Saudi. SAMA and Saudi Arabia Monetary Authority and CMA created amazing programs here that are Fintech Saudi and Sandbox. And I haven't heard about it anywhere in the world. So Sandbox is a program for early stage startups that can test the MVPs and run several pilots in the controlled environment where they can test their products and understand if they're safe for users, for local people, for Saudis. And then after that, then when they prove that they actually are viable and are scalable, and then after that, they can exit the sandbox and have this burden of compliance to the general rules. But this is a very interesting example of how government and startup ecosystems are working hand in hand. And I don't remember that we had something like that in America or in Singapore. And this is exactly why this ecosystem can be very attractive to American investors, because they can see some of the new opportunities and then scale it to a global theme. And I would also say that there is one number that is very inspiring to me, that penetration of technology of wireless payment and online payment, digital payment, that we named first, right? In Saudi, it will be, in 2028, it will be 36 million 36 million people will have this technology. Do you know how many people what is Saudi population? It is actually 36 million. So it means that would be the country where every single person will have this opportunity and this technology in hand. And I think that this is very inspiring. I really like that I have an opportunity to contribute the execution of Vision 2030 here. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. And I think that everyone who are here, especially Saudis, you should be very proud of your country.
Thank you, Dr. Genia. I used to be part of Saudi Payments, where the KPI for Vision 2030 was cashless society was 75%, which was supposed to be designed for 2030, but they already achieved it. So the Saudi society is already crossed the 75% of the cashless transaction in the kingdom. Further, let's expand the same topic with Iman and Tatiana. So what factors differentiate successful fintech startups in Saudi Arabia? Let's start with Tatiana, compared to the global fintechs and markets.
You mean what will make them more successful here and in other countries?
Yes.
Well, as Jamia mentioned, right, it's mobile penetration, it's overall countries' digitalization that has been growing year on year. It's countries' vision. Again, it's very hard to do business when legislation or political situations change every 3 to 5 years. I mean, it's impossible for companies to deliver. They don't know what they will be facing. In here, it's very clear what will be happening in the next 10, 20 years overall, and in very often even in small detail. And that really helps businesses feel secure because they understand that no matter what happens in the rest of the world, their business model, their business structure not going to change here because of external factors. Yes, some companies do like sometimes knowledge on how to build a startup. I'm talking about earlier stage startups, and this is an untapped sector in Saudi Arabia, but because of accelerators like Blossom, you know, they do have a lot of support and they can grow. Maybe sometimes not as fast as in US, but again, we are facing the problem of whether you want to have a unicorn that actually doesn't have any revenue, or you want to have a company that generates cash. So I'm way more for the second option. Yes, it will take longer time to reach the valuation. It will take longer time to develop, but then it's an actual business that can perform and that can last for decades, not just a fast track company that gets a high valuation in 1-2 years and then needs to fire all thousands of employees in the next 3 years. And that vision is what I want to show companies in Europe, and that's why I'm trying to bring them here.
Thank you. Iman, you would like to add on?
I think there is no better time for someone to start a company today in Saudi Arabia than right now. I think there's no better time to be kickstarting your fintech. I really echo the sentiment of my fellow panelists. We are currently not only witnessing, but living, and we have the opportunity to leverage the golden age of Saudi Arabia in so many capacities. There is an unparalleled amount of opportunity. And we see that in the amount of FDI, foreign direct investment, that's coming to Saudi, the number of international VCs, the number of startups like Tatiana, who's coming here to the region. And it really is because our ecosystem, our startup ecosystem is so synchronized. There's so much partnership and collaboration, especially PPP, public-private partnership. And there's, like you mentioned, such a clear vision with 2030 that everyone is on the same page. Everyone has this momentous excitement. Are there some challenges? Of course. Every ecosystem has its sets of challenges. I think specifically it will always be some later stage funding will lag behind, right? In terms of we have a lot of early stage investors, but when we go to Series B and beyond, but with that, there's an opportunity. I mean, if you look at Hisham Al-Falah and his company, Lean Technologies, they recently closed a Series B led by international VCs. I think we're going to see that trend continue as well. Sometimes there are challenges pertaining to hiring, right? It's really hard to find really incredible tech talent. But then also, if you look at the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, globally, Saudi has the second highest rating of a country than any other country around the world within regards to our perception to entrepreneurship. So for the most part, tomorrow Miss Global Forum is happening across the next few days. If you ask young people today, if you ask young Saudis today what their preferred job is, it's to create a company. It's not just to be employed by one, but it's going from being dreamers to being visionaries. And it's going from being visionaries to actually being their own job creators and taking matters in their own hand. I think it's incredible because if you look back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we were just scratching the surface. And with all the support that we see by government, I mentioned a lot of banks, because genuinely the rate of adoption, and corporates play a very important role, whether that be corporate innovation or corporate venture capital. And you see that here. So beyond government spearheading so many efforts, you see corporates really getting on board, and that's really important for fintech. And I mentioned it a bit, but I'll go into a bit of detail with it too. If you look at mature ecosystems, be it Singapore, be it Silicon Valley, and you look at it, it's actually not only government expenditure, it's actually really mostly privatization. You see these anchors like Meta and Apple and Microsoft that are really driving the force for the economic development of the startup ecosystem, whether that be in terms of them pushing out R&D, research and development, whether them pushing out the new tech talent. And we're just starting to scratch the surface of that within fintech, because banks are now playing a huge role beyond SAMA, beyond Sandbox, in really enabling fintechs even further. So there are a bit, not even like 0.05 of challenges. I really see it as a time of like endless opportunity, and I'm very excited. And we see it again and again. And I think, like I mentioned, this very last acquisition of Dirahim is just a testament also of an incredible bank like Bank al-Rajhi to acquire. And perhaps also the region needs a little bit more liquidation events, whether that's through secondaries, whether that's through M&As. But then again, you see all these incredible programs through Munsha'at that are really helping companies IPO, whether that's on the parallel markets of Numu, and really take that next forward to strive towards success. So my call to action for anyone who's, on the fence, should I do it, should I not? This is the time to do it. There is no better time. There's endless resources, and I'm just so excited to be living here. And like you mentioned, I am so grateful to be Saudi, and I'm so grateful. Every night in Riyadh, is there not like 5-6 events? I think you can feel it. At Biban just last week, and I'll end here to just give my panelists more time. But genuinely, I was there over the weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I think in any other country around the world. If you look at what young people are doing on their weekends, it's not going to tech conferences presenting. And I am so proud of my nation and its people, because all the Saudis were there hustling. They were there to learn. They were there with their booths. They were there selling. They were there fundraising. And I think that's a real testament of where we are and where we're going to be.
Great. You would like to add something? No? Okay. So
I might add just a small hint. Maybe I'm a little bit elder than the team here. I was in Saudi when I was a kid for 5 years, from grade 5 to grade 9. And I've wished them the first. I saw 3 tall Americans in the showroom, and it was when they developed the first PC. That was 1981. I don't remember whether that's in UPM or King Fahd University, or it was in Aramco. I'm not sure, but I was there. I think they have seen how Saudi Arabia is a good prospect and potential for such kind of a market to sell the PCs. For sure, that's why they came here. Maybe the trigger of NBS of this in 2016 was a little bit delayed for maybe 3 decades, but the potential was always there. And I think now we are just exploring and exploiting that potential to the whole world, and where Saudi Arabia now is playing the good and leadership in that domain.
Great. So in previous panels discussion, we were discussing about the technology. So let's discuss about these emerging technologies, AI, blockchain, open banking. So how they play in driving financial inclusion and digital transformation in Saudi Arabia. Any one of you would like to answer this?
Yani, if you allow me just for maybe 2 minutes, I can maybe, because I am part of this open banking, revolution that we have today in Saudi Arabia, and with my belief in open finance, which is going to be the next level of maturity after we reach certain maturity in open banking. So open banking is all about you start using your banking data and sharing it with TPPs, who are the third-party providers, to provide you value-added services. And then in phase 2, we are talking about payments and payment initiation. So after that, it should be that we open the data on not only of banks, but of all financial institutions, insurance, pension, investment, stock. So when you have a holistic view about the customer financial position, you can better understand the customer and better provide extra services. So I believe that the next level that we should go into, and I believe that we have been in SAMA last couple of weeks talking about open banking and the next level, we have been discussing the open finance as well. And I believe also in open economy, which is going to be even by understanding the social life, even of the customers. This should be allowed by the law or by the consent to get into their social life also, like in LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever platform, to understand the customer in a better way, not only from financial perspective. And my belief, maybe in the fintech industry, which we are promoting today in Saudi Arabia, I don't think that after 10 years I will need to open a bank account with any bank. This should become by default. And even in the device that I'm going to be holding, I don't know how big it is going to be or how small it's going to be at that time. Maybe it's going to be a built-in, or with the AI also capabilities, that we should have a seamless banking and financial services without even have to open a bank account or even to start a bank application at all.
That's
Yeah. I wanted to talk about the technologies that contribute actually to fintech. And if we're talking about Saudi Arabia, right, AI alone will make a huge change in here, because again, it's on the country's agenda to invest a lot in AI. We're talking about hundreds of billions, which are being announced week on week, not only from internal government funds, but we are also talking about Apple, Google, Microsoft, everyone bringing their funds for AI in here. There are a lot of data centers that are currently being built in here. So of course, that will stimulate fintech to grow, because there will be capabilities to actually build these companies in here, whether it will AI, blockchain, or any technologies that can facilitate the growth.
Do you would like to?
Yeah, probably just a small thing we just discussed with Tatiana behind the stage, that we don't need passport to get into Dubai airport or exit Saudi Arabia airport, right? Or my experience with Etihad when I flight here, that you can drop baggage and there was a screen where it's like facial recognition, knows who you are, and offers to print the ticket. And I can compare my experience, let's say, with America a couple of weeks ago. I flight to LP Summit, to the venture capital fund that I invested in, and I stayed in line, I think probably 1 hour and a half. And then after that, they asked me why I didn't book the return ticket, and they asked me again several questions. And then after that, they offered me to stay in room behind the borders, and then again multiple questions. So it's just I'm showing how fast artificial intelligence penetrates every single industry, and even such a secure procedure, right, that crossing the border. And definitely fintech is also using all the benefits of regulations here, and I believe that Saudi has all opportunities to overperform even Singapore. So
I just want to, I'm sorry for that experience. That sounds hectic. I was on the edge of my seat listening. I was like, what's the end? Did they allow you in the end?
yes, they did, but I spent I think around 3 hours at the border.
That's insane. I want to echo even beyond, Saudi's investments in AI. I think what we really have today in Saudi, and I hope yourself, Tatiana, feel it. You're local, خلاص. But is just this real sentiment of inclusion and hospitality in everything that we do. And I think it always has started in that Saudi, Khatb al-Haramain al-Sharifin, we have Mecca, we have Medina, and so we welcome pilgrims from around the world for thousands of years. And there's just this real sense of hospitality. And I think why that's really important when I talk about fintech or AI or startups is because Saudi's Ministry of Investment has invested so much in creating programs called the Entrepreneurship License, which really gives access to international companies to come here and set up and really make it seamless at like prices you've never heard of. Like the Entrepreneurship License for its first year, what you pay to MISA is 2,000 SAR, which is like $500. By company Blossom Accelerator, we're a partner of MISA in running that program, the entrepreneurship program of helping these international companies actually come to the region on soft land. And it's because Saudi's leadership recognizes that beyond enabling young people, beyond enabling Saudis, beyond upskilling them, beyond giving them capacity building, it's also creating platforms, inviting incredible, knowledgeable, gifted visionaries like yourselves to come here. Because that's what really makes it a holistic ecosystem. And so I hope that never happens to you in Saudi, I doubt. But I really think there's this incredible stride and effort to really make it a home. Even, I don't know if you saw recently, there was a lot of awarding of nationalities to incredible founders and investors that have been spearheading tech talents within Kingdom. And not only making those individuals themselves Saudi and gifting them the nationality, but their wives, their kids. I think, again, it's such a beautiful time to witness this, to be working together. I'm sure after this panel, we'll be working together in many, many facets. And I think the horizons are truly limitless.
Thank you. Before going to the question answers, if any, what are your boldest guess or prediction for fintech impact in Saudi Arabia? Any prediction next 5 years where you can see Saudi fintech?
As I said, I believe that within 5 years, the fintechs will dominate. Banks will lose the front end part, and those new players will take the front end from banks. So banks will start suffering from selling and cross-selling their products and services, unless they participate also in doing this kind of in innovation and super apps and being here and there, like what my colleague has mentioned, that Arachi bought a share in Darahim to be there in the TPP industry and PFM, especially with this all hassle of data that we have today. So I believe that the front end will be shifted from banks to those new players. So banks will become a back end account for those fintechs. So they will dominate. And the one who has really a use case that is beneficial for the customers and giving the value is going to continue and dominate. Those who will just become, a trial and error kind of things, and they will fail because they don't have this kind of experience and vision. I still have the belief that within less than 10 years, we will have no banking industry the same way that we are doing today. It is going to be something embedded in our devices, in our maybe brain. When you think about something, you can just execute it. Yeah, I believe that this will be the end of the journey for the traditional banking that we are seeing today.
Tatiana.
Well, I think in terms of revenues and EBITDA for local companies, any fintech players who actually can deliver on their products, they will see very, very good numbers. And I think it will make investors very happy with those numbers. And in return, there will be more investors that are interested to come to the region. We will see more deployment of technologies, obviously. It's honestly, for me, a little bit hard to predict what type of technologies even will be there in 5 or 10 years, because right now, the speed of development is so high, especially for AI. very hard to predict what exactly we will witness, but there will be some very big developments, and I'm sure that quite some of them will happen here because a country has the capacity to attract the best companies, to attract the best talents in here, and that is exactly what is happening right now. Same what, in China, everyone wanted to be in China 10, 15 years ago, and they were putting a lot of resources to attract the best talents, to attract the best people, and their economy flourished. I see even bigger opportunities locally right now in here, while a lot of countries in Europe are blocking those opportunities. They don't want people to come to them. They don't want businesses to come. They want just to develop locally. In here, as an international person, as was mentioned, the hospitality and the acceptance of international people is so high. I feel very comfortable. I feel very safe in terms of doing business here. Personally, I feel very safe and very happy to promote it to companies that I want to bring here, and pretty much to any companies. And I can see that not only on business level, but also on government levels, because I'm from Estonia, Estonian government is trying to do also quite a lot of things to get closer as a government and start doing collaborations, and we will see more of that for sure.
Dr. Ginia.
Yes, I have one idea that I want to share, but I might sound a little bit delusional in the beginning. I really need your help. So yesterday I learned that there is a ministry here that helps people who store their money literally for a year to share 2.5% with poor, right? I don't remember the name of this ministry, but it exists here because this is based on the religion.
Program is Ehsan.
هيئة الزكاة والدخل.
Yeah, sounds like that.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I think that one very significant marker that we see on the global scene, let's say countries that are developed or developing, right? The difference between first and the second group is the difference between poor population and rich population, right? And so I think that this specific feature of Muslim citizens, right? Especially if this will be digitalized, that will help to close this gap between poor and rich, number one. And second, like I said, there is certain in industry or let's say trend in fintech that is specific for Saudi, P2P lending. This trend also contributes to the same goal. And I think that answering your question, in 5 years, if this gap will be closed in Saudi, and I see that there is a confirmation that it will be closed, this country could be the richest country in the world.
Great. Iman.
Gosh, I'm so inspired. What's the question again?
Your bold prediction next 5 years for fintech in Saudi Arabia.
8 more unicorns.
Wow.
8 more
$8 billion.
unicorns. $8 billion. 8 more unicorns. And in the next 5 years, so by 2029, I think we'll see then there'll be Saudi companies that have come out. And I say that because not only is there an incredible high rate of many different founders starting fintechs, there's a huge appetite to support, to fund them. And again, to my colleague's point, Tatiana, this is not just an increase from valuation to valuation. These are companies that are actually generating revenue and that are actually breaking even, and in some cases that have also reached profitability. There is tremendous demand for digitalization, and I think fintech is really the way forward. So that's my prediction: $8 billion. Are one of you going to be the one? maybe the next, founder and CEO. I think it, and I don't think it will take that much time. I think many fintechs today are returning funds.
Inshallah. So let's move to question and answer. If any one of you have any questions for these esteemed panelists. Yes, please.
First of all, thank you for the great panel. Was
Do you need mic? Let me give you mic.
Thank you again for the great panel. It was awesome to hear from you guys. My question is, when are you seeing that we will have some strong regularities related to cryptocurrencies? Because we were talking about open banking and in fintech, but what about cryptocurrencies? Because we believe that maybe it's the future. It's a little bit related to movements, and there is a movement going with cryptocurrencies. So when are we seeing such regularities will appear? Thank you.
طبعا I'm being working in a bank and in regulated industry. See, we have several factors that can impact or influence that kind of thing that we need. First of all, طبعا having the cryptocurrency running now for 2 decades maybe, the central banks were not ready for that era and for taking the right actions at the right time. And they left the let's say the market to move with the cryptocurrency without regulation, and this has threatened the official regulated currencies supported by the central banks here and there. So this is first of all as a threatening, technology is impacting central banks, and now they start doing this kind of central bank digital currency (CBDC) and start putting some use cases to start regulating it, and it will be very good for them to even see the transactions happening. However, this is not going to limit or eliminate the cryptocurrency market. There is another very important aspect from Islamic Sharia perspective. Maybe we were just talking about Islamic rules and regulations and how it's helping people. From Sharia perspective, until now, there is no approval for the cryptocurrency because of, I don't know what's to be in English, al-ghubn. So al-ghubn means that the value today could be 100,000, tomorrow morning could be $1 only or zero. So this is, in trading, is not accepted by Sharia. And that's why most of the ulama until now, they didn't approve it from legal, from Sharia perspective, which is for most of us is a very big and important concern to follow. The third point is the future and how the new generations will be accepting and are accepting this, which is going to be remaining in the parallel market to the official one. And I think this is uncontrollable. However, I can still see some other use cases which we can capitalize upon to better serve the community and the financial sector without being dragged into this kind of black market and uncontrolled kind of things. I'm sorry to take the time.
No, we are just 6 seconds away, 5 seconds away. So thank you very much. Thanks for your time. And it was an honor to moderate such panel with such experienced people. And thank you for your questions and thank you for your time. Thank you.